Hey everybody, it's Lenora from It's a New Dawn, and today is my grand finale of my third season in the It's a New Dawn podcast world. I really love doing the podcast, but I'm gonna, after this beautiful man comes on today, I'm going to actually take maybe a little hiatus and regroup and get back on and do more podcasts for you. But today I am sitting down with Harrison. Actually, he's standing. Harrison Meagher and I met him on Clubhouse, and I was immediately attracted to his love, his heart, his spirit, his voice. He is from Australia. So here in Jersey, it is 5 o'clock. It is 7 a.m. the next day in Australia. Actually, I had somebody else on here from Australia. We did the same thing. So I welcome you, Harrison, and I'm going to introduce you. So Harrison is a certified holistic health coach by the CHEK CHEK Institute, which I was really intrigued with too, because I listen to Paul Czech all the time. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Paul Czech, but he's a little out there, and I love that about him. And I'm a little bit out there, and I think Harrison is too. And he is with the heart-centered personal trainer. He's a heart-centered personal trainer from Australia. So his story is one of seeking of externalized love, alcohol, women, drugs, travel, due to an inability to find this in himself. After hitting a wall after a traumatic experience that involved being in prison and deported, he was able to make steps and leaps towards a deep self-love, in capital letters, that was there all along. Now I make the commitment to create space and be that external love for others so that they can find their own compassionate healing during their unique and beautiful journey. His passion is helping those who hate looking in the mirror, but can't find and I say that because when I read this, I almost cried. And I've been in a lot of his rooms where he probably knows how sensitive I am. And if you all know how sensitive I am, if you listen to any of my podcasts, but that was one of the biggest obstacles I've ever had, is looking in the mirror and finding and being able to do that. So for me to do the mirror work and everything was huge for me. For people who hate looking in the mirror but can't find the energy, confidence, or time to do anything about it, reclaim the holistically healthy body and boundless self-love they deserve. His approach is made up of holistic wholeness, wholesome, functional, and ancestral view to get to the root problem: mindset, movement, nutrition, sleep, recovery, and stress management. So I am really excited to sit down with Harrison today, because I'm on the same wavelength as him, and I'm going to turn the camera over to you, Harrison. So take it away.
First of all, Lenora, you did that so beautifully. I think, like you said, the first time we met on Clubhouse, that link, right, that you're talking about of people being on the same path was very immediate. And I think that's why I'm enjoying this conversation today. I want to sort of connect with you deeper. In terms of, explaining a bit more about me, that bio is a very sort of high level summary of it. But to add a little bit more to it, I do holistic health coaching, but I'm finding more and more the main pull and draw of it is what you said, in terms of it's getting to that deep sense of self-love, because that isn't a unique problem that I have, or you might have had, or my neighbor has. It's a problem. It's a challenge that we all go through, right? We all get up in the morning and look in the mirror and have that dialogue of, okay, how much do I really love myself today? How much am I feeling into all that I am today? And I guess,
do you really think everybody feels that way? Everybody?
I do, to a degree. I do, to a degree, either consciously or subconsciously, right? I think we either consciously address it, so we're either looking in the mirror and like, okay, having that conversation, or we're unconsciously suppressing it, right? So in my story, I that was all I did for a very long time. It was unconsciously suppressing that dialogue that wasn't there, right? In the drinking, in the drugs, in the relationships I was getting in. I was unconsciously addressing that relationship, but I was doing it, unfortunately, in a way that wasn't healthy. I eventually got to see that, but it took a traumatic event where I hit a wall for me to open my eyes and be like, okay, now the only way forward is going inwards.
How did you find that? Like, you're really young. You're only 28. So it took me, I'm 56, and it took me a long time. And you're just so eloquent with your words and your thought and your spirit. So how did you get there so young, at such a young age?
It's a really good question. And I was just talking about this yesterday, actually. I'm constantly trying to work it out myself. And I think a part of it is we live in an era of excess right now. We live in an era of just instant gratification of everything, right? I could take my phone out right now and I can book a ticket to fly to the other, well, you know, outside of the pandemic world, I could book a ticket to fly to the other side of the world. On that flight, I could be swiping left or right and meeting up with all the people that I could ever want. I could be booking, you know, all the food I could ever need. I could be watching all the entertainment I could ever want instantly. And that polarity I was exposed to, I jumped in immediately. I just went all in 100%. And because of the extreme of it, because it's so extreme, I think I was lucky enough to bounce back the opposite way. Does that make sense? That's my hypothesis.
Not making 100% sense to me. So did something happen so bad that it bounced you into this space you are in now? Like,
so
all at once?
Well, it was two things. It was two
okay
things.
I'm sorry, I really want to understand, because there's so much hope for the younger generation, because you're 28, so it's possible. I mean, I've 3 kids older than you, so I mean, you know, it's possible, and it gives me a lot of hope that this can happen to somebody so young, and they can feel good and happy and healthy and help others. So it's so beautiful. So I'm sorry if I'm asking you this again, but I really, really want to understand.
No, well, I appreciate you asking, because it expands it further. And what I explained is a part of it. It was the small what's the saying? The break the camel's back. It was the straws that were sort of being removed. It was the nails in the coffin.
The straw that broke the camel's back.
Yes. So that was building up to that. That was a component that was building up to it. And as you alluded to in my bio, what ended up happening for me is, because I spent many years doing that. I spent many years in the excess, in the instant gratification of the world around me, that I got to a point where I defined my self-worth and my value and my love on that. But then, as in the bio, like you said, I was in line at an airport, like I'd done many, many, many times before. And I gave my passport, and the short story is that I ended up being detained for multiple days, questioned, interrogated, put in a place to the other side of the airport with, not much food, not a very good experience. And I don't blame the actual, I don't blame the environment around me, but it felt very traumatic to me, right? My external world that I had set my value on was now telling me that I was a horrible person, was now telling me that I was a criminal, was telling me that I was...
How old were you when this happened? How old were you?
26. So this was...
Okay, so a couple of years ago. All right.
A couple of years ago, yeah.
Okay.
And then at the end of that, I was deported back home, and basically I was shut off from making any further plans or continuing what I was doing. So I was very lost, right? I didn't know how to take that next step. And the only step forward was going inwards for me. And I guess, does that answer your question?
Yes. Yes. So I want to hear more of your journey. So go ahead.
So from that point, right, going inwards, I had to come back to things I was familiar with. And I've always been an athletic person. So I started there, right? I started with my movement. And I started quickly realizing that once movement wasn't being done for other people, i.e. done for the validation of women, done for the validation of men in my life, it started to feel different. It felt like it was heavier, right? It felt like it was actually something that I was doing for me, right? Something I was doing for my health, for my goals, for my improvement, for the love that I wanted to give out in the world. And that started stacking up, right? That reached out into food, that reached out into how my sleep practices are, that reached out in how I mitigate my stress and my mindset and my emotions. And
so it started with movement. It started with movement. What
correct.
kind of movement were you doing?
So I have like a gymnastic background. So I started doing, I really went all in on slacklining. If you know what slacklining is, it's like when you get a tight rope and you set it up between two trees or two poles and you start balancing like you in like a
tightrope walker.
Yeah, tightrope walker. Yeah. So I went all in on that, and then that really pulled me towards more ancestral and functional types of movement with kettlebells and getting on the ground and being on the earth and being out in nature and yeah, that's where that started for me. Like
balance. So the balance from the tightrope walking brought more balance into your life.
And then also I did a lot of ring work. So like you see the gymnastic rings that they get up on and they do flips and
the rings. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was
incredible core strength then.
Yes.
Yeah. So when did you start working with the CHEK Institute?
So I started right when the pandemic started last year.
Wow. Actually. So that was pretty recent too.
Yeah.
And that sounds like part of that also, like what he talks about. Yeah.
100%. So it's really interesting. We started this conversation talking about Paul Czech, and you said he's very out there.
He is very woo woo out there, but I love him.
And for such a long time, that never clicked for me. Right? I saw that on the outside. I was like, what does that mean? What is the depth there? And it's funnily enough, when I started making this inward journey into me, that's when it started clicking. So he never changed, but I changed, right? Our outside world is always a reflection of our inner world, right? So when something doesn't work on the outside, it's not really them, it's me. So last year when the pandemic hit, it just so happened to align with this progression that I was making inwards. And then everything he was saying in the Institute and all the things they stand for was just 100% aligned. And I just went.
How did you get introduced to him?
Podcasts. It was just along my podcast journey of just exploring and taking in information every day. And I was listening to another friend's podcast, and they'd mentioned that he had one. And for me, I don't know if you're the same, but I just find podcasts the best way to ingest information.
I'm a podcast junkie.
Yeah.
I'm a podcast junkie. And as much as I do tell my clients, like FYI, I'm an RN holistic health coach. So I do nutritional counseling, but it ends up being more like a therapy session once a week. We talk about not just eating, obviously. Yeah. So my biggest recommendation is always getting out in nature, right? Because a lot of people, I can't meditate. All right. Can you get out in nature and not have your pods in and listen to the birds and the sounds of your feet on the ground? And honestly, I'm like the nursing aspect also. I don't practice what I preach either. I don't, that's another story. But I always have my pods in listening to my podcast. I just love, I was an avid reader before COVID, I want to say. Because then I started with TikTok.
Yes.
And got like, now I'm at 11.5, but I've been stuck there for a while because I don't do too much on there anymore. But that took up a lot of time. And then Clubhouse. So now Clubhouse, but then there's all these other apps too. The moral of the story is that I don't practice what I preach. I was in my pods in listening to the podcast because I just think it's amazing the information that you can get. Whether it's the Audible books, because I'll get the Audible books like the Wim Hof and nasal breathing and breath and all these books that are just amazing. And I'm like, the 4 Agreements, and I'm just listening to it over and over. And I'm like, but you should go out in nature and not put your pods in.
It's a balance, right? I think there's a balance there.
It is, but see, I'm an avid meditator too.
Yes.
That's why I'm saying, I mean, even though I don't do that, I think it's the easiest way for people to just get in touch with themselves and be introspective, besides the restorative yoga that I always preach. Yes. But I do meditate. Like I could just get into there no matter, you see I'm type A, but I'm a whole different person. A, when I teach restorative yoga, because I can turn it off and just get into that space. And then when I meditate, like I could just sit anywhere. I don't need any anything, any direction, anything on, not to say that's wrong, but for me, I just took to it so quick. So I'm so grateful for meditation. Every time I finish my 30-minute meditation, put my hands together in front of my heart, I thank God, the universe, my angels for this gift of meditation, because it's so truly a gift.
Well, it grounds you back into yourself, right?
Oh my God.
That meditation is a tool that we always have. We all have access to at any point in the day that can help us get back into the most valuable thing is this present moment, right? When we get anxious, when we get taken away by stress, when we get family members say something and it triggers us, meditation brings you into the present moment where those things don't exist as much, right? It hones you back into the love that's inside of us.
And that space between your thoughts that just get longer and bigger. It's just bliss, man. It's just, and I just love it. And I'm so grateful for it. It's free and it's better than any medication in the world. And I'm not saying don't take your medication, okay? I'm just saying that's my medication, is all these tools that I align with you so deeply with, because, and I'm not saying anything against medication. I'm a nurse, but I choose to medicate myself with this food that I eat, the air that I breathe, the water that I drink, my meditation, my yoga, my exercise, my workouts in the gym that I'm bringing up I work really hard in the gym, but I know when to bring it down. And I know it's such a gift to get there, because I've been through so much trauma also in my life where I could feel that peace. Oh my God, for a half hour a day. Wow.
And I think it's interesting. It's so simple, right? We also live in a place where we have a resistance to simplicity. We feel like if it's that simple, it mustn't give that amount of result, right? But it really does. It really does. And when you let go into it.
Isn't that true about everything, Harrison? Isn't that true about everything? And people want this quick thing with diet. And diet doesn't have to be a bad word. It's just the way you eat. So I have a Lenora diet. You have a Harrison diet. There's, Susie diet. It's just a word. And you want to make it more complicated than it has to be. It's not that complicated. It really isn't. Exercise isn't complicated. I'm so old school. I've been since I'm 16 doing just progressive overload and tweaking little things, but it's squatting and pushing and pulling and, and accessory moves and maybe a carry here and there.
And it makes you feel good.
Oh my God.
You do those things. This goes back to the original point is what we're talking about, right? You're not doing all of those things because someone else is telling you, or someone else's book outline, or someone else's podcast, or someone else's, all these amazing things. You're doing them because they feel good to you. And any of these topics that we talk about today, that's the secret there. If it feels good to you and you enjoy doing it, you can bring joy into it, into the meditation, into the exercise, into the food, then it's going to last. That's how you do it. That's the hack there.
Yeah, it's a great hack. It's not that complicated. So I'm sorry. I tend to like, especially when I align with somebody, I tend to like talk. I'm sorry. I don't mean to do that, but
don't need to.
You know. Actually, the last person I had on, we aligned so deeply, and everything he said, I'm like, are you in my head? Like, and then he had me on his podcast because it was like, I'm just gonna have you on my podcast because but it's beautiful to have the connections like this, and I'm so grateful. This is where I want to curse social media, and a lot of times like it's just so much stimulation and so many things that I'm on, and like, how do I delegate my time? But then I want to praise them too, because I would never have known you or met a lot of people. I met such good people on TikTok and now Clubhouse. So, and I think you probably would agree, like you're pretty much a little superstar in Clubhouse.
100% in terms of social media is a tool, right? It's a tool, and like any tool, you can hit yourself in the head with it, or you can create a masterpiece, right? You can create a masterpiece with it. And whether it's a podcast, whether it's Clubhouse, whether it's TikTok, if you give your heart to it, if you just give all that you are and into the tool itself, then of course you're going to meet connections of people doing the same thing. And it's why I think podcasts and Clubhouse specifically are slightly different, because they're mostly voice, right? This is a bit video, but Clubhouse is all voice. And when you're speaking from the voice, there's no room for bullshit, right? There is, but people can pick it up, right? They notice it straight away. And when you're talking on Clubhouse or in a podcast, you need to speak from the heart, right? You need to, I'm not thinking right now. I'm just speaking what's coming up. And you said that you connect to people, like you're the same, right? I'll try and not go too deep here, but in my belief,
you go as deep as you want.
In my belief, we are all expressions of the one, right? Love, consciousness, God, universe, whatever your name is for it, right? We are all expressions of the one. We're unique expressions, but we're the expressions of this one thing. So when we connect deeply on a level like this, it's like we're seeing ourselves, right? Our love inside of us my love is connecting to your love, and it's the same source. Does that make sense?
Of course it does. Yes. God is my mirror. Right?
Yes, 100%.
Like, we are God. We are the universe. Right? That might be a little deep for actually whoever's listening to, whatever audience that I have is definitely gonna relate to this, because I talk about stuff like this all the time. Maybe not as deep to this level, but I think anybody who listens to my podcast knows that I'm all about this stuff. I guess you can call it woo-woo stuff, but I don't know. Would you? I don't know.
That word, right? That word woo-woo.
I knew you were going to pick on that word, but that's okay. Go ahead.
It's a safe thing to say, right? It's like, as soon as you don't understand it, it's easy to be like, okay, it's woo-woo, it's fine. It's because it's that, then it's okay that I don't understand it. But I would lovingly challenge anyone listening, when they hear the word woo-woo is around anything like this conversation, open your heart, right? Open yourself up and see what happens, right? Because we know there is a difference between thinking and feeling. And when you hear that word woo-woo, especially connected to this kind of conversation, it's easy to get lost in the thinking mind. But I would test and challenge someone as soon as they hear the woo-woo, turn the thinking mind off and open the feeling heart up, and then see what happens.
I like that. I don't think I'm going to say woo-woo anymore then. I have to figure out a different word.
It
You
just
know,
is.
word?
It
Just is.
just is.
It just is.
If
Okay.
it doesn't feel good, then walk away. If it feels good, then go deeper.
Yes, I like that. I like that. So give us some more of this juicy talk, because I love hearing your voice, Harrison. Right, you guys? Australian accent. I really like it. And you guys already know. I hate to say guys. The audience already knows what a beautiful man you are already. I know it. So continue. I'd like you to share more of your, whatever you want to share.
Well, I guess what's coming up for me when you talk about the voice, I'm really passionate about this right now, this idea of the voice and people using it. And it's really interesting that, you know, we're talking about my story before, and another element of it is last year I did a medicine journey with a friend, and a part of it was something that came up. She was helping me dissect everything that was coming through, and part of it was, I don't know if you've ever done human design work before, you know what that is, but it's a,
when you say medicine, did you say medicine work?
so medicine work, but then also, do you know what human design is? When I say human design, have you heard of that?
I want you to explain. I want
So
you to
it's-
explain medicine and the human design.
So I
project.
did a
Okay.
plant medicine. So I ended up doing like a plant medicine journey.
Oh,
and
okay.
Yeah, and it was connected to a human design analysis, which is like it tells us what our souls and spirit come into this world with certain characteristics, right? We all have certain characteristics connected to our soul. Does that
Is
make
this
sense?
like a Paul CHEK thing? It sounds
No.
familiar. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, anyone listening, I would just Google it. You'll see what it is. But anyway,
Okay.
the big part of it was my throat chakra. One of the characteristics of my analysis was that my throat chakra was a source of my power, was a source of my expression of self. And at the time last year, that totally made no sense to me. Like, I'd done a couple of YouTube videos, but I felt awkward and weird and shy and vulnerable and all these things. And it wasn't until this year, until we met on Clubhouse, and I ventured into that world, and I stepped into the vulnerability of it, and I stepped into my power and all the things that I stand for, that my throat chakra, it just exploded.
Wow.
And now I can't even imagine it not being a part of how I show up in this world. So I think it's interesting that you said, right, that you like listening to my voice. For me, for a long time, that would have never been in my wheelhouse.
Wow. How
but
beautiful
now I've just
is
stepped
that?
into it.
How beautiful is that? And I'm very much into the chakras and prana and energy and flowing, and I always had an issue with the throat chakra also, because I felt I think you were in the room, or I might have said this to you about my breakup with my friend of 40 years. And I felt because it was a pretty condescending relationship, and didn't feel worthy. Although we had some really beautiful years too. So, but I always felt like I swallowed this gobber.
Yeah.
It was big, and it was like stuck. And I felt the same, like when COVID happened, and that's when we departed, like right when it started last March. So I think it's funny. It's like we're on that parallel thing. And then little by little, if you look at my TikToks, no way. My husband's like, I cannot believe this is you. And he's so proud of me because everything just released. And I lip sync and I say things and I get on camera, which I would never do. I would never do this a year ago. Be on camera. Because I have a fractured skull and I don't know if you know my story, but paralyzed face, and I'm not perfect and aesthetically at all. I mean, my face is not even, but here I am. My hair is pulled back, and I'm voicing and I'm speaking, and it's liberating. And I don't know if you feel that way, if you feel like just free. That you release that.
100%. It's a release, but it's also just it's a letting go, right? It's just the throat chakra and our voice. We build our voice by using it, right? It's a muscle. It's a part of ourselves that needs to be pumped. Right, it needs to be expressed, and
like every muscle, right? Every other muscle needs that,
yeah.
Right? Can't just go in the gym once and expect to be fit. So that's what you're saying, right? Your muscle, right?
And it has a deep link to our heart, right? And we know that our heart is our energetic center of giving and receiving love, right? And emotions. And that giving and receiving can be there, but if we're not voicing the ups and downs of that, then it's just going to get stuck, like you said, right? It's going to get stuck, and we're going to feel like something isn't being voiced, isn't being expressed, isn't being let go into the universe. It doesn't matter how it's received, right? We can never take responsibility of what is outside of us, because that's always going to be at the whim of life itself. But we can take responsibility of how we voice that energy to begin with.
For sure. What were you doing before you were helping people in their wellness journeys? Like, what were you doing? Do you want to share that?
Yeah.
You don't have to. Oh, okay.
So immediately, before doing all this, I was, like I said, I was in that state of just traveling. I studied overseas. I worked in.
What did you study? I'm just curious. Unless you don't want to share.
No, I'd love to.
Okay.
So before I went into all my sort of personal training and CHEK qualifications in my other life, I was doing. I actually have a background in computer science, in IT technology.
Okay.
And then that was the main sort of field, so computer science. But I in all honesty, I used it as a vehicle to travel more, right? So I used school as a way to go on exchange and study abroad and
nothing wrong with that.
See the world. Yeah.
It's funny how you said my other life. Did you say your other life? Yeah. I feel even my other life, even through nursing school, I didn't graduate until I was 47, because I don't know how I did that. Like, I don't know who that person was. I don't know. In the audience, anybody who's been through nursing school is freaking hard. And I had 5 kids home. I had problems with my marriage, and I can't hear. And I get through this school, with provisions, with hearing, because I had to get things transcribed and stuff. But I don't know who that person was. And even through all the abuse and all of that, I don't know who that was another life for me also. Like, it was another life, like drinking and sex and all that stuff. And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So are you loving this new life?
Yes, but I want to get back to that point that you said just then. It's another life. It feels like another life because we change so much, right? We're constantly, I think it's the empowering part of it, is that we're always building, we're always growing, we're always
Evolving.
transforming. Yes. And whether we consciously accept it or not, we're constantly progressing forward. Life is not stagnant. It's always shifting and molding and trying to express itself in the best way that it can. So it's, you know, it feels like another life because it almost is, in terms of who we are now and who we were yesterday, who we were the day before, who we were a week ago. It's always changing. What was your question before that? I got lost track.
You said you were an IT person, and you what you were doing before, you wanted to travel.
Yeah.
That's why. And I said, that's great.
Yeah.
Because traveling is good. It was before COVID.
Before the world went into.
Right.
Yeah,
so
before the world transformed.
like, what were you doing? You were in school, and then was it a major shift into the health and wellness field, or?
Yeah.
Like,
so like I said, hitting the wall with being detained and being deported, that was when it caused everything to shift. So not just my relationship to myself, but also what I wanted to do in the world. And because I started doing so much work on myself, I started seeing that, you know, I'm not special in the way that I am unique, but I'm not special, meaning everyone can make these steps, right? Everyone can make the steps of going inwards, you know, connecting to their self-love, connecting to their self-care practices, working on their exercise, working on their nutrition and their emotional balances, all these things. And that's what really started helping me shift from, you know, travel and computer science and all of those things that added to who I am now, but now shifting to health and wellness, because it's so impactful, right? There's no one in this world that doesn't deal with these things. And I guess it's just, that's where my purpose now lies, in that itself.
And we all have a special purpose, every single one of us, right?
Well, that's a whole other conversation, but 100%.
Well, right? We all, you know, we are all, you know, I'll speak to clients, and there are a couple, I just want to hug them through the phone because it makes me so sad. I don't want to cry, but it makes me so sad that they don't feel worthy. And I'm just thinking about one person in particular. Like, I have never even met him in person. He's one of my clients, you know, and I've been working with him for about a year, and we'll do FaceTime, and he's worthy. And to see somebody who just talks so bad about himself, and I give him all my love, like I call him every day. That's not my job to do that, but I do it because I want him to know that he's worthy and special, and everybody is worthy. How do you do that? How do you do that with somebody, Harrison? Do you have?
Good question. So
my heart, just like, I envision him and I feel for him and I give him love, and it helps every time we talk. It helps him. But we'll hang up and I'll get texts, and it's a process, you know, but.
So I made a post the other day about the cake of change. And in my, it applies to what you're talking about, because I think there are a couple of steps here. And first of all, I totally agree with you. I think we all come into this world whole and complete, right? We come in as a beautiful soul in this human experience, and we are already whole and complete. And we have contracts and a purpose, like you said, to fulfill along this journey. But along the way, in the human experience, layers get added on top, right? Traumas, limiting beliefs, ancestral links of reoccurring patterns. And all of these components contribute to a forgetfulness, I call it the great forgetting, right? The great forgetting of just how truly worthy and loved and whole and complete we actually are. So hearing your story about your client, and it's so common, unfortunately, I see it in my world as well. The only thing you can do as a loving soul that you are is, one, hold space for him, right? Which is what you're doing. Add in some unconditional love, which is already what you're doing. And then trust, right? Trust that all the love and all the work and all the unconditional support that you give will get him to a place where he can start remembering, right? Where he can start feeling into his innate healer, his innate purpose, and his innate love. And I think that is all any of us can ever do, right? It's the holding space, it's the unconditional love, and it's just falling back into the trust.
Yes. Amen. That's beautiful. Thank you. And I wasn't here for, I'm not doing this for advice, but since you're here, Harrison.
Well,
that's what you
I give it because I feel the exact same way, right? It's me giving you that stuff is a reminder to myself, right? It's a reminder to myself that when I'm in that situation, because it's probably going to happen today or tomorrow or the next day, it's a reminder to me that that is all I can ever do. And if I'm doing that, then I'm living up to my highest purpose.
It just blows me away that you're 28 and that you talk the way you do and you are the way you are. And see, you guys, if you're not on Clubhouse, if you don't get it from this podcast, if you get on Clubhouse and you go in your rooms, you feel it, you feel the love, you feel the space, you definitely give that space, that quiet space. And you're listening and you're loving, and you can feel that, even though it's just sound, it's just audio. I know that's happening on your end. You are there. You aren't looking on your phone. You're there for that person who's speaking, and people feel that. So I want to let you know that.
Thank you, Lenora. And I want to receive that love. And I receive all it. I want to throw it back to you and anyone listening, that it's a relationship, right? I feel strong in my love and in my purpose and the things that I give when you show up or when someone else shows up, right? It's going back to our other conversation before about the oneness, right? How we're expressions of the one. We're expressions of the one because the one wants to experience itself. And that's a relationship there. So I can't experience my love unless you are here, right? So you're an equal part of this situation as me. So I feel my love coming out of me because you're here, because we're having that relationship together. My love meets your love meets mine. So I receive the love you give me, but I want to make sure that you know that you're an equal and a beautiful and an amazing part of it. And I wouldn't be able to do it if you weren't here.
Thank you so much, Harrison. You're just the way you are with your words. My heart. I was saying before we started that unfortunately people do not have the attention span that they should have in the world. That's why I'm saying with TikTok, they give you 15 seconds or 60 seconds to do a video. And then they give you the advice, don't go over 7 seconds because people are doing this, this, they don't watch. But I do want you to say whatever you want to say and express to the audience. So tell the audience whatever you want to say, talk about whatever you want. If you want to end the podcast, I also want you to share some beautiful last words of wisdom, because I'm really excited to hear those beautiful last words of wisdom, because I know that it's going to be really, really cool. And And then we'll tell everybody where they can get in touch with you and all of that. But take your time, whatever you want to do, Harrison. The stage is yours.
Thank you, Lenora. Well, first of all, so I did want to share some words of wisdom, but I guess I want to throw my gratitude back at you first for allowing me to speak to you and have this conversation and give my love to your audience. And I just appreciate you for letting me be here and having this discussion.
Welcome.
My words of wisdom, I think the thing that comes to mind when you ask that is, I think we can, a lot of us can, including myself, can often forget the power of our choice, right? We can sometimes forget that when life does get challenging, like this last year, for example, or something in our family, something with our friendship dynamics, anything, when life throws us a curveball, it can feel like we don't have a choice, right? It can feel like we need to take it. We need to just sit down and just succumb to the pressures of life. And I understand that, and I've been there. But I want to remind people that we are so much more than, if this conversation hasn't highlighted this already, we are so much more than the environment and the things that happened around us. And how we interact with that is by honing back into our powerful choice, by stepping in to the potential that we all have inside of us by making a choice, right? This could be, no, mum, I don't want to go out for dinner tonight because I need to sleep. I need to respect my health, my recovery, my bedtime, because I need to go to bed. It can be a yes to a friend because spending time with that friend connects you back into your love, connects you back into the unconditional relationship that you have with this person. And it could be a no simply because it means putting up barriers because it's needed, right? Because you need it. So I guess that's the wisdom I want to give is never forget the power of your choice. And you always have a choice. You always have a choice to move forward, to say yes to move forward, or no to move forward. But no, that's always there. I guess that's what I wanted to give.
I love that. Amen, Harrison. Amen. Is there anything else you want to share? And also let people know where they can get in touch with you. I mean, are you taking clients? What are you doing? Are you open for new clients?
Yeah, so I won't overly complicate it. I am taking both one-on-one clients, and also I'm rolling out a group coaching program as well. But
that's great. That's great.
Yeah, and in terms of getting in contact with me, just reach out via social media. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Clubhouse, and Twitter at Harrison Meagher. That's Meagher spelled Meagher. And then if you want to get in touch, you want to do some coaching, you want to connect deeper, just send me a message. I also have a website, harrisonmeagher.com.
And I will have all that information in the show notes below. You guys, you know what? You can reach me. I do have a link tree now. Subscribe, share, comment, like. It really does help. Those links for my podcast and also YouTube channel will be in the link tree link. My website is under construction, but it should be done any day. So by the time this comes out, which hopefully I'll get it out quickly, it should be up. And you know what? I'll be working probably, I'm steering in a little bit of a different direction. I'm probably going to be just teaching restorative and yin yoga through Zoom, and also taking clients for nutritional counseling. But I might be just leaving out of all my other things because I don't know, life changes. I'm evolving, right? Right, Harrison?
100%. It's feeling good right now. It's what's calling to you.
I'm feeling good, and I never know where I'm going to go. I don't know what I want to be when I grow up.
I love that.
I don't. And what's the best that can happen, right?
Right.
But anyway, any questions, you guys? My email is in my website. You can contact me. I have my Google number there. Raw bars. Oh my gosh, I almost forgot to talk about my raw bars. The only brand that I am an ambassador and affiliate. They do not sponsor me, but they are good seeds. They give back 10% of the net proceeds to feed the hungry children worldwide. And they're a young couple. They are in their early 30s. They're from Minnesota, and they were on my podcast a few weeks ago. Beautiful, beautiful people. The bars are vegan, but they fit any diet. The pea protein in the bar just passed for no metals or anything like that in the pea protein. They're 18 to 21 grams of protein a bar, organic ingredients, tasty. And you can get 5% off. And that link will be in my link tree also. 5% off, capital LENNY, the number 5. So that's Lenny 5. And on that note, thank you, Harrison, for blessing me with your presence. I appreciate you.
I
And
appreciate you too.
I appreciate
Thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. And you have a beautiful day because it's only 8 o'clock there, 8 a.m.
Starting my day.
PM
This is the best way to start it.
It's so great. I can't wait to see you on Clubhouse or hear you on Clubhouse.
Hear you on Clubhouse.
Take care. Have a wonderful
All right.
blessed day, everybody.
Thank you, Lenora.